Hi everybody, this is Mrs. Lehman from Math with Mrs. Lehman, and I am going to go through the expectations, the test format, and some different hints, tips, and advice that I have for you as you take your New York State test on Wednesday and Thursday. So if you're one of my students, I called the New York State testing Math Wizardathon because it's based on the premise that there are always tricks and a little bit of um, magic involved in getting through this. So um, if you're on my team, you'll understand all this. But anyway, so Math Wizardathon 2019. Let's go ahead. So this first page here is essentially what skills are important to grade 6. And you'll notice the main cluster here that you really, if you want to spend time focusing, you're studying, I would focus on ratios and proportions, the number system, which would be, all that stuff in Module 2, and then expressions and equations, actually Module 2 and 3 up here, and then expressions and equations, which was Module 4, that's all about solving equations, writing algebraic expressions, writing expressions based on a table, things of that sort. They do have in this blue section a lot of questions on, I think it said 20%-ish, don't quote me on that, are going to be on geometry. So you're going to have things like nets and surface area and volume, things of that nature. And then you have additional clusters, which again talk about the number system more, GCF, LCM, those types of skills. Now you'll notice down here where it says statistics and probability, that is all what we consider post-test stuff that you'll learn in Module 6. So the next page, what to expect on day 1. All right, on day 1, all of the questions are multiple choice. There are 31 questions, and the state estimates that it will take between 80 and 90 minutes on average to complete. So that's an average. There are going to be kids who rush through it and don't take their time and do a terrible job, not because they're bad at math, but because they're impatient and can't be bothered, to take their time on something. Then you're going to also have kids that take a really, really long time. So, my advice on that is take as much time as you need to do the best that you can, okay? There's no calculator on day 1. Now, day 1, because that's multiple choice, there are a few strategies that not only apply to any math question, but especially multiple choice math questions. So I always tell my students, read each question at least twice. A lot of times what separates a student who gets a question right and students who get questions wrong is not, again, their math ability or that one kid's smarter than another kid. It's just if they're not reading carefully, they miss key information. They maybe don't answer the question as it's asked. They answer some other question that they thought it was asking. So be really careful on that. Part of really being focused when you read is underlining keywords, numbers, etc. You need to ask yourself, what is this question asking me to do? I know as math teachers, a lot of us kind of rephrase the question and kids understand it. Well, we won't be able to do that when you're taking your New York State test. So please just kind of read it over and say, what is this asking me? What would Mrs. Lehman tell me to do here? What hints or tips would I do? Try to put yourself in the role of the teacher, if that makes sense. And then obviously you're going to look at your answer choices and see if any can be eliminated initially based on common sense and skill. So as we've gone over our many review packets, we've noticed as a group that a lot of answers can be taken off just based on a little understanding of the world and math. So again, try to eliminate as many as you can, and each time you do that, you've increased your odds of getting that correct by 25%. So definitely worth your time there. Obviously, to get a math question correct, a lot of times you're going to need work. I mean, there are some questions that don't really require work, but most questions in grade 6 require some work to be shown. So please make sure you're not skipping that. It's not a guessing game when it's multiple choice. And And the next thing I have on here is when you find your answer, ask, does this make sense? The other day, a student, we were finding, how many degrees Celsius, or I'm sorry, how many degrees Fahrenheit something would be. And this was after they gave us how many degrees Celsius it was. And this was someplace on Earth, and their answer was like 180 million or something insane. So, you've got to look at your answer and say, does this make sense? Is that in the realm of possibilities here? And I think you'll have much greater success if you're doing that each time. And if you're stuck, there's nothing saying that you've got to stay on the same question repeatedly, for a long time. Just come back to it later. Maybe there's something else in the test that will refresh your memory or make you kind of think about it differently. But there's no sense just staring at something and getting frustrated. Move on, all right? Come back to it later. Not a big deal. Day 2, part 2 is a little bit different. It's all math again, so the same basic test taking, do your work well, and general good advice still applies, but calculators are allowed on this day of the test. And if you want to make sure you're getting all your points, make sure if you're typing into the calculator that you have it written down on paper. So you don't have to do every single step of division. If you want to show that you divided two numbers, just make sure you wrote down that you're dividing those two numbers, because a lot of kids will type it in and then they never write it on their paper, and so they lose points. So the good news is, if your work is graded, that means you're going to get partial credit if you are, going in the right direction with it. These questions require multiple steps with a few different tasks. Now, I know with ELA, a lot of times they'll give a bulleted list, and the kids can kind of just go through there and say, okay, I need to do this, this, and that. With the math test, they don't really do that. They may put a few jobs that you need to do in that question, but they don't really lay it out for you, so you're going to have to read extra carefully on this. On day 2, there will be 7 multiple choice questions, 7 short response questions, and then 1 extended response question, which requires usually multiple parts. So, things that'll take you longer, but there aren't as many of them. They estimate that day 2 is going to take you less time than day 1. But again, just take your time. It's going to be different for everybody. And then this is a copy of the reference sheet. So they give you a lot of stuff on conversion. So there's that on top. They have the triangle formula, 1/2 base times height. And I know my students work with base times height divided by 2, and we kind of use the fraction version of that when we're dealing with fractions. And if we're dealing with decimals and whole numbers, we just multiply base times height and then just divide the whole thing by 2. And then the right rectangular prism formula is on here, which is a capital B times H, which means they already multiplied the length and the width for you. So that's pretty awesome. So these are all freebies. They give those to you, and you can use that. And then what I recommend to my students is to write down as much as they can before they even get started. I know in ELA, for example, a lot of kids know that there are good formats for paragraphs and essays and stuff, and they write that down before they even get started because it's fresh in their memory before it gets clouded with anything else. So here's just a short list of what I could think of in a few minutes here of what we teach in 6th grade. So line equals line, a proportion set up, and then we use that for finding percents with is over of equals percent out of 100, and then part over whole equals percent out of 100. We talked about the distance formula in Module 1. That means distance equals the rate of speed times the amount of time you travel for that speed. We talked about the parallelogram formula, area equals base times height, so that applies to parallelograms and specifically rectangles and also squares if you want to. We have the order of operations, PEMDAS. We have a lot with the coordinate plane on this test. One thing that the kids kind of struggled with at one point is that numbers on the left of the number line are less than numbers to the right. So there's that. So some general just advice that I have for you: take your time. The school day is set up for testing. You're going to be in school anyway, so you might as well just do your best, see how you do. You have as long as you need to do your absolute best. Don't stress over it, but take your time. Don't let the pace of others influence how quickly you finish your test. I know a lot of times when we start to resume a normal schedule, and a lot of kids who maybe just take a little bit longer, and that's perfectly fine. They start to get a little bit anxious, like, oh no, my peers are going back to their classes and whatever, and then they all of a sudden hurry. You know, you do you, okay? If you need to take more time, take more time. It's not a big deal. Take breaks as needed. Sometimes you just need a change of scenery. So if you need to get up and use the restroom, go get a drink of water. We have proctors to do all that stuff. So it is a-okay to do that. And again, I said this before, you don't need to do the test in order necessarily. If you come to one that you're stuck on, come back to it later. Right? Don't waste a ton of time on one question that's upsetting you. Just come back to it. It's not the end of the world. Make sure you're showing your work. And I know my kids, you've seen pretty much every question that New York State has released, and I know they got a lot better than the past few years about releasing the questions. So you've seen every question that has been asked, I think, in the past 4 years that teachers and people in New York State have access to, and you have made so much progress this year. You guys have been really great about problem solving. I truly think you will do a great job. And again, students everywhere are going to be asked these same questions. It's not like you're alone in this. You're taking this test. You'll be fine. And you have just as good as skills as anyone else. So everything can be solved. Yeah, people make mistakes. That's okay. Just do your best. I can't emphasize that enough. And the big message I really wanted to say in this video is you got this. And the last thing, warning, math wizards, we're coming for you. Thanks for watching Math with Mrs. Lehman. Have a great day. And if you're bored, if you have something you'd like to do, please check out my other videos. I have a whole playlist. If you click on View Playlist under State Math Review questions, that will be helpful if you want to just kind of gain some insight into some other types of questions that you're going to be asked. You know, it's all there. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a great day. Bye.